Welcome to episode 11 of Press YYZ. This is your one-stop shop where we bring you all the best video game news and discussion with a uniquely Canadian twist. You can find the show on Twitter at PressYYZ, where we appreciate any feedback you may have. I'll be your host with the most tonight, Mitch George, joined by AJ Fraser.
What'd you sell your nips for?
Alex Ballant.
Hi, everybody.
Alexander Kozina.
You guys spam the group chat that we have on Discord with, I swear, 100 messages a day talking about all these turnips.
And Nathan McInerney.
Honestly, you need to get into the Animal Crossing just for the nip talk. The nip talk's the best.
I love the nips.
I mean, I feel like I can enjoy it just, looking on it from afar. I don't feel like I need to be a part of it. But
You'd rather watch this train wreck from a distance?
Yeah, sure.
Because everyone at this point is well over 100 hours in this game, right? Or is it just me and Nathan?
That might just be you two.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I'm just checking in for the 2 minutes it takes to run to the Nook shop and see the prices, and then I'm turning it back off.
Yeah, so to explain it, for those who aren't familiar with Animal Crossing New Horizons, there is a mechanism in the game which is the stock market, spelled STALK, where each day you get 2 price points on turnips, and you just try to maximize that using the internet and all that jazz like I did earlier today. So how's everyone's week been outside of Animal Crossing?
Interesting.
Do go on.
Well, obviously I've been playing a few games here and there. I've been playing more BioShock 1. I've been playing Jedi Fallen Order. However, the main thing that has occupied most of my time over the past week has been building my first custom-built PC.
PCs are for nerds.
This is something that's been...
Don't be mean.
Oh no, I've built a PC before. It's amazing. I love doing that.
Yeah, it's so immensely satisfying.
So, this is something that's been a long time coming. I got the gaming laptop that I previously was using back in 2017. It worked out fine, but eventually some issues began to crop up. For one, the hinge on the screen partially broke, and while I was able to fix it, it left the screen with a big permanent crack. And then two, eventually my streaming efforts got to the point where it was really starting to tax the PC, and I came to realize, it's time for an upgrade. And so I decided, you know what? Might as well go ahead and build a PC. It sounds intimidating, but everyone that I've heard talk about it over the years that I trust has said, it's not that big of a deal. It's a good skill to learn. It's easier than you would anticipate. And so I decided to take the plunge. Monarchy, who is a viewer of my Twitch streams, who I've become acquainted with over the past couple of months, gave me a lot of pointers in terms of what components I should be getting to build a PC. I'm not going to go super in depth here, but just quickly for those who might be curious, my CPU, based on his recommendation, was an AMD Ryzen 7 3700X 3.6 gigahertz 8-core processor. My motherboard was an Asus Prime X 570p ATX AM4 motherboard, and my video card,
The only thing that matters,
is an EVGA GeForce RTX 2060 6GB KO Ultra gaming video card. It's a real mouthful, but basically all I have to say...
Those are some numbers for sure.
Yeah, those are a lot of numbers.
How many more graphics does it have compared to your laptop?
It has...
Got to be at least 3, I bet. 3 more.
That's what I was going to go with, 3 graphics.
I'm pretty sure I checked this between 2 and 3.
When are we gonna get a RTX Minecraft stream? You got to use that RTX feature now.
I mean, but didn't they drop the super enhanced graphics update from Minecraft?
I mean, you can with mods.
You can mod the Java version to have ray tracing and stuff.
Yeah.
So
we gotta
I forgot that was built in Java. That's
we gotta
insane.
see that in action.
Just watch the latest Inside Xbox. You see some ray tracing in Minecraft.
I'm definitely going to take it for a run with something really super graphic intensive. The one problem right now is that I did not get a new monitor to go with all of this new equipment. So the current monitor that I'm looking at things on is kind of so-so. It's not you can't really kind of fully appreciate the graphical intensity of what my new video card can manage. But that will, once the coronavirus stuff dies down and I can walk myself into a store, that will probably change.
if I can give you if I can give you a suggestion on monitors, for that graphics card, you should get a 1440p with a 144 hertz, because you don't need. I mean, you can run stuff at 4K, but you're gonna want like the high frame rate, and you can really, for 90% of games, you can run stuff really high, and so that's what I would suggest, at least for that.
That sounds good. I'm definitely going to be looking forward to getting into that soon. It's just, right now with the coronavirus and whatnot, I would rather, I would want to kind of like go into like a store and sort of see in person what I prefer and don't prefer. And right now it's kind of hard to do so.
Fair enough.
So, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to transition, but if you have more to say, go for it.
Well, I just want to say quickly that, I got all the components together. Luckily, before all of the, coronavirus clamping down happened, which was good, because I don't know if I would have been able to get all the components in time otherwise. After a fraught and difficult night trying to figure out how to get through the first two steps, I managed to build it all together. And, I will say it is a very fun, it is a very rewarding process. Like I said, the beginning hours of building it were challenging, but, like many other challenging things in life, I feel like you kind of just gotta keep pushing and get through it, because the reward at the end is really worth it.
I've got a little bit of an embarrassing PC story. So the PC that I built back in 2013, it was pretty good. I had 2 graphics cards. I had an i7 in it. Pretty good for the time. I spent maybe $3,000 on it. And it was just
right, yeah.
the components for inside the case, because I inherited a case from my uncle. Eventually, I got fed up with with how loud that case was, so I bought a case off Amazon. It showed up, and I started disassembling my computer. Because I had inherited this case from my uncle, he had already had standoffs in it. So I had no idea what specifically the standoffs were for or what they were supposed to do. I ended up basically frying that entire computer because I had no idea. Yeah. It was about 2 years after I made it and everything, and so you
got to be careful when it comes to those bibs and bobs in your PC.
Oh, absolutely. And this is the kind of stuff that Greg Miller always complains about and is afraid to screw up and doesn't want to ruin. And it's just, oh man, it's so heartbreaking. But I've been itching to build a new one, so.
Yeah, honestly, seeing Cozy talking about this new PC build, seeing his posts on Twitter, seeing his jumping into his stream at twitch.tv/CozyBearLive.
Yes, that is
Yeah,
correct.
got it right. Got a plug. And Monarchy, the fella he mentioned that's in his chat all the time, offered to help me with a parts list too, which I really do appreciate, because it's something that I've been itching to do for a little while. Probably keeping it under a certain threshold if and when my wedding does happen. I need to spend money on that. Mm-hmm. But God, being in isolation, I've been itching to have a project.
Yeah.
And speaking of being in isolation, Alex, I know you've been you've caught the bug the same way I have in terms of binge spending on video games. So what have you been spending your time on?
So last week I talked a little bit about this, just how I've been buying games, and I've bought a whole bunch that I haven't even really touched at all, but one of them that I actually have finally spent some time with, I'm pretty early into the game, is Fire Emblem Three Houses, and I quite enjoy it. I don't know, we're gonna get into a little bit later about RPGs and JRPGs, but most JRPGs just don't do anything for me. Like, I just don't like the aesthetic, really. I'm not really that big into anime either. It's nothing against it, and I know this is like kind of a gross generalization, but the style of it doesn't really appeal to me. A lot of the tropiness of it doesn't really appeal to me. But there's something about Fire Emblem that just kind of, because I played Awakening when it was on the 3DS, and that was another game that just like, it really just sunk its teeth into me, and I'm really enjoying it. I really like the sort of relationship building that you get to do with it, and then the combat is just kind of, it's really fun turn-based style, and I think the idea of having the three houses, like the name suggests, and the and sort of the themes of like the class-based like the classism that kind of has been going into it so far, I think is really intriguing, and I'm really excited to keep sort of getting into it more.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say after, what is it, 80 hours to beat the main story or something like that?
It's something like that. I think I'm like 5, so, it's going to be a little bit.
You're going to be there a while.
Yeah.
You got
No, it's
nothing
cool.
but time, buddy. Nothing but time.
That is very true. But unfortunately, I decided to, because of the whole having an unlimited amount of time to do whatever I want, I decided to do something that I didn't think I was going to do for years, and that's replay through Red Dead 2. And oh god, it's Red Dead 2 is, though replaying it, it does lose a little bit of the magic because it can kind of see where a lot of like some of the scripted stuff is, and the scripted nature of Rockstar campaigns very much shows when you play the game again. There's a really great YouTube video called, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's like the problems with Rockstar's game design. It's by a YouTuber named Nakey Jakey. He goes into like really in-depth detail about how Red Dead 2 is kind of really on rails, and that's kind of disappointing for what they promise. But I just think, despite that, the storytelling of that game is so amazing and so immaculate, and the characters of Arthur Morgan are so well written and the fact that the main character from the first game is almost unrecognizable at the beginning of Red Dead 2, and you see him become the character he is in the beginning of the first game, because Red Dead 2 is a prequel. It's awesome, and I really, really dig the story, and that's kind of the main reason why I'm playing through it, is just to experience that again, because it's really great. But for the most,
you might as well with all the time we have.
Yeah, I'm not watching any movies, so I might as well basically be watching a movie game.
Oh man, all I've been doing is watching movies. I feel like I've been playing a couple of games. So I did actually play through and complete Katana Zero.
Ooh,
Oh,
so
very
good.
nice.
Oh my! So there was a point in that game where you get to make a decision, and if you make the decision a certain way, which is how I made it the first time, the game just ends.
Yeah.
Which is just like it is some very interesting storytelling elements in that game. The themes it covers in terms of battling with addiction, and it's definitely something to experience. It's got like Hotline Miami vibes in terms of enter room, kill everything really quick, with some time travel involved, like some time manipulation, which is really cool. Definitely recommend anyone who's interested or has been interested, check it out. I know it's been on sale a few times, so if you can catch it on sale like I did, it's definitely worth the time, worth the money.
One of the biggest things I love about that game is just with the time manipulation. So it's like whenever you start a level, you have to go through it and do it flawlessly without getting hit at all. And you do it over and over and over again. And every time you fail, your character's like, no, that's not it. That's not right. That's not how I did it. And then when you finally complete it, you get to see because you have a mechanic where you can slow down time to like do stuff, to be able to like deflect bullets and stuff. And when you do it, when you finally like beat the level, you see the uninterrupted version of the character going through and killing everything. And it's just, every time that happens, it makes you feel like a badass when you see it, and that's what I really appreciated about it.
There was one level later in the game where it's almost uninterrupted, where you're going through, I think, 5 or 6 different rooms, like different levels, before you get that replay. So playing through probably 20 or 30 times of each of these levels, and then getting to the end of it, seeing that one continuous run through all of them flawlessly with no slowdown was really cool to see. And speaking of seeing, I actually watched a couple movies this week on Disney Plus. So earlier this week, in terms of when we recorded, it was actually yesterday, was the 25th anniversary of the release of a Goofy movie.
Oh yeah.
So I sat down last night and enjoyed all 1 hour and 1 hour and 15 minutes of that movie or something like that. It's not a very long movie, but it's definitely something I remember fondly from my childhood, and thankfully it holds up.
I watched.
It's
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Al.
No, go ahead. You haven't spoken too much yet this podcast. So.
I actually watched that movie with my son this week. He put it on in Disney Plus. Has nothing to do with my 4-year-old, and I was watching it with him. I thought the movie was pretty good, although I had some concerns nowadays with the fact that the main character gets away with lying to a girl, and somehow pulls it off at the end. But it is what it is. That was the 90s.
Yeah, that itself is a little dated, unfortunately. But I think as a whole, like the songs in that movie are really good. The Mickey and Donald Duck cameo on the side of the highway hitching a ride is great. Yeah, it's a real fun time. If you've got Disney Plus, it's worth spending a very short amount of time for something that's just nice.
Yeah, so this movie was like one of my most beloved VHSs way back in the day.
Oh man, VHS.
Yeah.
Alex, do you know what those are?
Those were they're like the things.
Oh my
that
God,
they
he
spin.
actually doesn't know.
No, I know what a VHS is. I was trying to think of a joke, and I guess
Okay, well, that didn't come across.
the joke is on me, I guess.
And yeah, it's been interesting watching this film become as popular as it is nowadays on the internet. Like I remember there was a very distinctive time in my life where this was, one of many animated movies that Disney put out directly to video that really were, kind of forgotten in the kind of sea of all the other releases around it. And watching it kind of rise to the top has been humbling. Although there is, I can't deny that there is a part of me that's kind of like, I kind of liked it better when it was this best kept secret. But at the end of the day, I think it's good that more people are getting to appreciate and enjoy it.
Yeah. The other thing I checked out on Disney Plus was Onward. So this movie had a bit of an interesting story where it did release in theaters shortly before the COVID-19 pandemic really took hold. So it didn't get a long theatrical release, and Disney decided they were just going to throw it on Disney Plus. And honestly, I really enjoyed it. It wasn't the best Pixar movie I've ever seen. It was an interesting story of two brothers going on a journey to try and spend one last day with their dad. And I don't know what it is, but Pixar, no matter what they release, every movie, without a doubt, at the end, I'm sitting there crying ugly tears because I don't know if it was the circumstances of watching it in isolation without family and friends there, or if it's just that Pixar magic of tugging on your heartstrings. But I was ugly crying by the end of that movie. It was really, really well ended. It lacked a little bit of character depth in the middle. Like it was very traditional. So the way I like to describe it, it was a B+ Pixar movie with an A+ ending.
So I've heard it described as a tale of two brothers, similar to hold on, let me get my words straight here. So Frozen is a tale of two sisters. It's the boy's answer to Frozen.
I don't feel that.
No.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
I've heard that as well. This movie is not as good as Frozen or Frozen 2.
Okay. I haven't seen it.
But it is
I haven't
still
seen
very
Frozen
good.
2
It is
yet,
worth
so.
watching if you have Disney Plus, since it is there. And it's actually not the last movie that's going to end up there. I actually read earlier today that Disney's planning on releasing the Artemis Fowl movie there, and I didn't even realize that was coming out. And now it's just going straight to Disney Plus. It's not even going to theaters.
Are any of you guys Artemis Fowl fans?
I grew up on those books. I'm actually really looking forward to what the movie does.
Okay, because I'm not a fan myself, but I am friends online with a couple of other fans, including you. And what they've all been saying is, yeah, this looks like it's a complete deviation from the book. It's not going to be good.
I mean, I haven't read those books since I was a preteen or a teenager, so it's been a while. I'm still looking forward to whatever it is they put out. But Nathan, I know we've been hogging a lot of this time, so what have you been up to this week?
So I know it's hard to believe, but I've played a lot of Animal Crossing.
Oh.
Wait, really?
know.
No way.
And I might be fully addicted to it. I think I'm going to have a KK Slider concert coming soon. So it's been a lot of fun. But other than that, just working. Not a lot going on. Just Animal Crossing.
Yeah. I also forgot to mention at the top of the show that I'm incredibly depressed today, because when we were planning out the first 2 to 3 months of this show, I told you guys that I was not going to be here for tonight's recording.
Oh.
And the reason I was not going to be here for tonight's recording is that I had tickets to see Hamilton tonight. And guess who's not seeing Hamilton right now?
Oh, man.
Yeah, my girlfriend and I were in the same boat a couple of weeks ago. We were supposed to go see it, but then at the last minute, they
really want to see
when
Hamilton.
they canceled it. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
so
super bummer.
If I seem a little bummed out, that may be why.
Stop thinking about it.
It's hard not to think about, because
Think about video games.
At least you have alcohol.
That
at
too.
least I have alcohol, and at least we still have video games. And, surprise, surprise, there's some video game news this week in the news drop.
Let's do it.
I gotta say, kind of surprised by how much news there is. Oh, wait a minute. Did I just interrupt the news drop jingle?
Ready, set, go. News drop.
Probably,
Oh,
but I don't
I'm
care 'cause
sorry.
it's actually not very good. I'd rather, I still want to tinker with that a bit. I don't really like the way it sounds on the recording, but that's just me.
All right.
I'm overly critical of the things that I do.
Yeah.
So the first couple of stories, I'm going to group them together, and this is going to be our next gen news nugget. The first story is that Sony has introduced us to the PlayStation 5 DualSense controller.
It's
And
beautiful.
This
Gorgeous.
I'm pulling this right. I'm pulling this right up from GamesIndustry.biz from Brendan Sinclair, and yeah, it's a controller.
There's a lot of opinions about it.
Yes, the internet is abuzz with opinions on this controller. So, in terms of what Sony's put out, they've rebranded their controller, which has been the DualShock since the PlayStation days.
Six axis.
It has been the DualShock since the PlayStation days because we don't talk about the 6-axis. And what they've done here is kind of interesting. They've added, they were reportedly introducing new haptic features in the controller.
Which, was on the Xbox One controller.
Okay, so the haptic features they're adding to the controller are not trigger-based. They are also adding additional functionality within the triggers to have more sensitivity in terms of feedback in the triggers, which, yes, is borrowed from what Xbox did with the Xbox One controller. They're also adding a built-in microphone to the controller, as well as a mute button, which is, long overdue for any of these major controllers. I'm so happy they're introducing that hardware mute button, as well as rebranding the share button as a create button. And Sony's going to tell us a little more closer to launch of the console what that button will actually do.
Okay, I have a question about those two buttons. We've gone away in recent years, and even this last generation. Xbox started it, I guess, from putting a word to that button. On the Xbox controller, there's the hamburger button, and then there's the button with the windows on it. So now the new PlayStation 5 controller has a hamburger button, which I assume is like the start button, and then the new share button, create button, has these three
I like to call
lines
it
up from it.
I like to call it the goose button because it looks like the noise that the goose would make in Untitled Goose Game.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Or we can call it the honk button if you prefer. I still got to finish that game.
Yeah, me too.
Me too.
So let me take you all on. Sorry, I don't know, AJ. Did you have something more you wanted to say on the?
Yeah, they still got the sticks wrong, but continue, Chris.
Okay, I just want to take you all on a quick little journey here. So I remarked on social media how this new controller kind of looks like the logo for Kojima Productions, Ludens, if he had too much Monster Energy. And then at some point, someone on another Discord channel I was part of brought up the old Boomerang PlayStation 3 controller that was prototyped and ultimately rejected. And when I saw that, I was like, you know what? That kind of looks like old Snake. Like it's, tall and langy and skinny and kind of weird and wrinkly and decrepit. And then I kind of I sat there and I'm like, is Hideo Kojima secretly involved in the design of all of these controllers? Because there's a Hideo Kojima through line in both of these weird ass controllers that I don't think we can deny anymore.
The Boomerang.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say the Boomerang controller is weird enough. I could see Kojima trying to make that for sure.
Yeah.
I think you're just digging too much into it. It is what it is. The other thing they've done actually is they moved the light bar from the front of the controller to the top of the controller, which is that going to have some sort of impact on PSVR on the next gen console?
yeah.
Because I know that heavily used the light bar. So if it's not on the front, how is that controller going to be tracked?
It looks like it's smaller as well, from at least what I can tell, which I'm hoping because of that, because there's not as much there, that maybe the controller will actually last for more than 4 hours, because the light bar was the thing that drained the battery from it. So
they
then
are adding all
reducing
this extra functionality though, right? This haptic feedback, the haptic triggers is going to drain battery as well. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there. I do like the fact that they've rounded out the controller a little more. It looks a little more like a natural thing to hold in your hand, because I felt like the DualShock has always been a little too straight for me down the sides to the
Yes.
to the grips of the controller, whereas this looks a little more bulky. It looks like it'll fill out my hand a lot more comfortably.
Yeah, Xbox got that right a while ago with regards to like the natural placement like of your hand and especially the thumbsticks, right,
Nope.
Nathan? Where it just sort of makes sense. That it looks like when you hold your hands out in front of you and just in a natural resting position, you can imagine holding that controller in a way that wouldn't strain your hand.
So everything you said there was right, including the offset sticks. I'm sorry, Nathan. I've been a PlayStation stan almost my entire life, but offset sticks are better. But you said Xbox controller and not Switch Pro controller because honestly,
Switch Pro
the Switch
controller
Pro
is not as
controller
good.
is the best controller I've
No,
ever
it isn't.
used.
It's not.
Yes, it is.
It is definitely not. And the reason,
Yes,
the
it is.
why I will say that is because it doesn't have real triggers. It has buttons.
I don't care. Okay, so that limitation is because of the Joy-Cons. It has to match what the Joy-Cons have. Because those controllers are so small, they can't have digital, or they have to have digital triggers. They can't have analog triggers. So yes, while I agree with you that the triggers are lacking, I still feel like in terms of shape and comfort and stick orientation, Switch Pro controller takes the cake for me.
Well, let's agree to disagree.
Fine.
But one of the GameCube controller is actually a terrible controller.
Yeah.
It's only good
Agreed.
for Smash Brothers.
Even then, it's not good. I've played too much Smash with the Switch Pro controller at this point. I tried to use a GameCube controller at AJ's birthday party. I barely won.
So one of the things I think that's the most interesting about the DualSense is just the color scheme of this default model. The fact that it is white will kind of seems to give an indication of what the console itself is going to look like, or I
It's
mean,
two-tone.
somewhat.
It's definitely two-tone for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested to see like the other color variants that are obviously going to come out with it. You've seen mock-ups, like
Yeah.
fan mock-ups of like the black on black, which looks really cool.
It does, yeah.
I'd be excited for a red on black.
Yeah.
That would be super rad.
Yeah, it remains to be seen if they're going to have other color variations at launch or if we're going to have to wait a couple of years for that.
I feel like the
but-
sorry, I just want to say very quickly.
No, go for it.
I feel like the industry has moved away from these kinds of controllers, but a semi-transparent controller I would be very fond of.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Again,
Bring back that
yeah,
like
it's not very
Arctic
common, but
Game Boy,
The atomic purple?
see-through Game Boy one. That one was great.
What I'm
Oh,
holding
yeah.
up for the Discord to see that our listeners cannot is that I have the semi-transparent or translucent red DualShock 4, and that's my go-to controller, and I friggin' love this. So if we got some, like, I like the translucent look of this. I like the translucent look of the Switch Pro controller. So give me that on the DualSense, and I will be a happy gamer.
cool.
I also just wanted to add that Jim Ryan, as part of this release, did reiterate that they are targeting a holiday 2020 release for the
not
PlayStation
happening.
5, and it remains to be seen if that target date will actually be hit. So our next story in our next-gen news nugget is related to Xbox, and that they had an Inside Xbox presentation this past week. In terms of next-gen news, it was kind of light. The only real piece of news that we were able to pull from this is that they reiterated that external hard drives will be usable to boot games from. You will not have to only expand with the Seagate expansion drive. But Xbox Series X games will have to be on the internal storage or one of those external memory expansions. They cannot boot from a hard drive, an external hard drive. Whereas older Xbox One, Xbox 360 games that are saved to those hard drive, you could plug it into your Xbox Series X day one, and things will work.
I still
So-
maintain that at some point they're going to, like, technology is going to improve in such a way that they will be able to match the speed of those proprietary drives, and somebody will come along with an external drive made specifically for it, and it'll work just fine.
I think part of that limitation will actually have to do with the USB interface. It can only transmit speeds so fast. It's not about the drive itself. The drive could probably read and write, but the actual interface between the drive and the system may not be able to support it. And you know what else is unfortunately not going to be supported anytime soon is The Last of Us Part 2 and Iron Man VR. Both games have been
Pour one
delayed
out.
indefinitely. This news coming again from GamesIndustry.biz from Rebecca Valentine. And Sony announced that both games are being delayed indefinitely due to COVID-19. It sounds like the games are more or less done. They're in the final stages of bug fixing, but given the logistics that are outside of Sony's control, they don't feel like the launch could be to the satisfaction of the developer. So they're delaying it until such a point that I guess they feel comfortable releasing it with the constraints on physical retail and manufacturing and the logistics of just getting these discs where they need to be. I guess they felt like they had to hold off.
I know physical media, especially for you, Alex, is still kind of a big deal.
Yeah, I'd like to say I'm sorry. I'm part of the problem here.
Yeah. I've gone mostly digital at this point, so this kind of really bums me out. I get it, but at the same time, like a few years ago, weren't they like trying to make like everybody trying to make a push for like buy a few more things here and there digital and just trying to expand that library so they could. I don't know.
Well, that's why the Xbox One was the failure that it was because they tried to push for that too early.
They pushed for that way too early, but then subtly and slowly, everybody just started creeping up with that same thing, and then
I mean, I'm sure it's not like there's probably a lot of legalities in the back end of if they put this out digital first and then didn't ship day and date to stores, that all of their retail partners would have a conniption.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's a lot more to this than just, gamers like physical, so the physical sales need to be there. I don't think that's the case.
Is it?
If they launched Iron Man VR tomorrow digital only, it would probably still sell gangbusters.
Is it? I'm sorry, I gotta ask. Sidetrack here. Is it conniption? Because I've always heard knipshit. Throw out knipshit.
Conniption.
No, it's conniption. There's no
Never
swear
heard it
in
that
there.
way. I've never.
Nope.
Knipshit is what I've always heard.
Oh man.
So I want to put forth a very admittedly speculative idea here. But Naughty Dog has stated that they want to release some sort of iteration / new version of The Last of Us multiplayer mode at some point in the future. And the way that they previously made it sound, it would be coming sometime after the release of The Last of Us Part 2's single-player campaign. Do we think it's at all possible that when The Last of Us Part 2 gets rescheduled, we could see some sort of this multiplayer component come along with it because they'll have had the time since then to build it and include it, or is that very wishful thinking?
I think that's probably wishful thinking. From the way that they were talking about the multiplayer being excluded from the initial release of The Last of Us, they made it seem like it was going to not be a part of The Last of Us Part 2, but more its own individual game. So I was kind of more expecting to see this like next year at the earliest, and I think especially with them not being in the studio together, with them all having to work from home, it's going to make that development a lot slower just because there's not as much it's harder to be able to communicate via working from home and being able to collaborate on it. It's possible, but I think it's going to be slower. So I just don't see it happening unless this delay, because it is indefinitely, unless it's really delayed depending on how things go.
I would say it's probably hard for them to continue any development on The Last of Us Part 2 once they finish with this bug fixing cycle that they're in, because the majority of bug fixes actually come after launch, after the public has their hands on these games and finds a lot of these vulnerabilities. Without the ability to resolve any of those post-launch, because it's not launching anytime soon, they could potentially be building those same bugs into this multiplayer, rumored multiplayer component. So they probably want to wait until they have a stable single player code base before they branch off to do the multiplayer. So I would be more expecting to see something totally different from them being developed in the meantime, not an extension to The Last of Us Part 2, just because there's no guarantee that what they have is a fully functioning, I mean, it's fully functioning, but there's going to be more bugs in there that they're going to have to squash after the game goes live.
So what game do we think is going to get delayed next?
Whatever Sonic game Sega was going to announce this year, because we knew that they had a bunch of announcements lined up, and I feel like all of that's just hit the fan at this point.
I'm going to say, even though Microsoft is they're super adamant about saying Series X is coming out this year, I think Halo Infinite is going to get delayed. And I hope it does.
Why?
I think both consoles are getting delayed, but that's another discussion.
Yeah.
Why do you hope Halo gets delayed?
Because the fact that we haven't seen anything from it, by this time there would have, every other Halo game since Halo 3 for
Would have
sure
had at
has
least
had
an
a
announcement
beta,
trailer.
and
or
has
that.
also had a beta as well. And the fact
The
that
betas happened over the summer though.
yeah, but like they've happened years, like the
Yeah.
year before as well. And so I don't know. It's really making me nervous because especially the fact that we haven't seen any actual gameplay.
So I know we haven't seen much from Halo Infinite, but you know what we have been seeing a bit of online?
What have we been seeing?
Cooking Mama's Cookstar gameplay.
Ooh.
So now we get into the what the hell is wrong with Cooking Mama section of the show in that
2020
every
is a
week.
weird year.
yeah, and it's only April.
I'm really looking forward to hearing about this because I heard about like all of the weird problems that people were having with the game, but I didn't hear about the kind of insider leak / explanation, which I think you're about to delve into.
That is correct. So the article I've pulled is actually from Screen Rant from Christopher Teuton. Teuton. I apologize for not pronouncing that any better, but it's an exclusive interview with a developer who worked on Cooking Mama Cookstar. So Cooking Mama Cookstar Switch eShop controversy explained. So one developer has spoken up to the rumors of... So to catch everyone up, Cooking Mama Cookstar was weirdly advertised last year to involve some sort of blockchain technology and coin trading within the game in terms of in-game currency and all these other weird technical buzzwords that didn't make any sense. The developer of the game isn't actually a developer, they're a publisher. And according to this inside source, a lot of the talk around cryptocurrencies before launch were just buzzwords. It was the heads of the publisher knowing very little about these things, just wanting to put fancy language out to get potential investors interested who like those sort of things. And there were lots of reports of the game crashing and overheating switches, which was part of the rumor as to why it was delisted from the eShop, even though physical copies are still out there. The developer who was interviewed actually spoke to this. In terms of crashes and overheating, that would be because the game was made in Unity. Unity being one of the most popular game engines out there. By many people working on their first game, it's not the best product, but it made it through several vigorous reviews by Nintendo and Sony. There's no way crypto mining stuff could get through those tests. I doubt anyone at the publisher would even be able to make something that involved cryptocurrency in this game. So it sounds like there was just a lot of first-time devs having to work on this game and just not building a very stable product. So to get into the real reason why Cooking Mama Cookstar was pulled from the eShop, it's legal. So there's a legal battle brewing between publisher Planet Entertainment and the IP holder of Cooking Mama, Office Create. This is because Planet Entertainment released the game against the request of the IP holder, and Office Create, the IP holder, wanted them to continue publishing the game or even cancel it. There was clearly a lack of communication between publisher and developer, and yeah, it's kind of crazy. Any thoughts on this stuff?
Mama deserved better.
Oh god, I loved those games back on the DS and the Wii, but I hate to see Mama being put in a corner like this.
What about Babysitting Mama?
That one doesn't count.
No, don't shake the baby.
That's just
that
a general
true?
life lesson. You shouldn't shake babies.
That's fair.
And if no one has anything else,
My babies turned out just
no,
fine.
you
I
should
shook
not
them
shake
all the
babies.
time.
You're the only parent here. You should know you should not
I
shake
never
babies.
shook my babies.
Alex, should we shake Q?
I mean, I
He's
got
our
nothing.
resident film baby.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of babies,
I just want to be held by someone right now.
oh god, I'm in the same boat. It's so lonely. It's so lonely. Speaking of babies, a NASCAR driver rage quit a virtual race and is definitely not mad about that.
Wow.
So this story caught my eye because over the last few weeks, NASCAR has actually been using a racing sim, iRacing, to run simulated races with their professional drivers. So it is really one of the first instances of the actual athletes of a sport taking esports to a nationally broadcasted event, which is really cool. But this story coming to us from Kotaku, written by Luke Plunkett, there's one driver that wasn't so happy with the situation. So during this past Sunday's race, which was televised, driver Bubba Wallace, yes, Bubba Wallace, quit in the middle of a race after tangling with rival with a rival in the most video game way possible. So during the event, Bubba Wallace and Clint Boyer came together a few times, which the official NASCAR accounts has highlights of if you want to check that out. The view from Wallace's stream is much better, where you see him getting audibly upset at the fact that Clint Boyer is just coming up and hitting his car like you would in any other racing video game. So he decided to just quit mid-race, dropped his controller, quit the stream, that was it. And his main sponsor actually caught word of this and dropped him as a sponsored driver. So he no longer has a sponsor for his race car when we get back to real race car driving. So how bizarre is this that we could talk about NASCAR on a video game podcast?
I mean, so it's well, this is like the first like real big kind of like instance of the real quote unquote professionals coming into our world and playing our simulation games and stuff like that. I know for a fact in Formula One, Max Verstappen and like Lando Norris and stuff like that, they actually do play the F1 game every year and stuff like that. And I don't know if they like necessarily compete so much, but every once in a while on their social medias and stuff, they will you'll see them getting together and like having a little competition or something like that, playing a game together and stuff. So it's definitely one of those real cool things.
It's funny too, because this, officially sanctioned esports event from NASCAR actually had some other weird things happen during it. So another driver missed his qualifying because he had connection issues, so he wasn't able to get into the game. And 7-time NASCAR champion Jimmy Johnson fired his spotter less than 20 laps into the race after his spotter falsely told him that he was clear, only to then be involved in a crash. So it's just bizarre the way that this is shaping up to be our sports lives now. And Luke actually has a really interesting way that he wraps up this article. I recommend go give it a click, go give it a read. The videos he links are hilarious. But his final line, I miss sports. And while fake sports just isn't the same, it's certainly shaping up to have its own charms.
The sports world is really they're really going through a weird phase right now, especially with this next story for the Read All the Things.
Yeah, and
Things are
I
getting
mean,
weird.
there are other leagues that are getting into this. So I know the NBA has started streaming 2K games amongst their players. So it's like esports is really filling a void where sports would have normally been, right in the thick of things at this point. We'd have NHL playoffs, just about at the NBA playoffs. Like this is like the time baseball is just getting back. So
I know at the EGLX before the one we all met at this past year, so 2018, Mitch Marner on the Maple Leafs was actually there, and he actually got up on stage and played some video games in front of everybody, and that was super
he actually
cool.
just started streaming on Twitch.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he's streaming a lot of Call of Duty Warzone on Twitch. I've been following it. It's
I
oddly
gotta
bizarre.
tell my girlfriend about that because she
Also,
loves the Leafs.
Tangent, but Mark Hoppus of Blink-182 is streaming on Twitch.
Oh
he's
my-
streaming Animal Crossing.
What?
Yeah,
Hell yeah!
I know, it's just insane. And what else is insane is what I've put into Read All the Things. So to get back into our sports motif, Dana White, president of UFC, is basically trying to start his own Mortal Kombat tournament, where he has acquired, or he has sort of made a private island available for his fights.
It's closer to Dead or Alive than it is Mortal Kombat.
But assuming he has, female fighters come down as well, then sure. But
I mean,
otherwise,
Hopefully we'll be seeing some spines getting ripped out soon.
yeah. So apparently he's acquired the use of this island for 2 months and is planning to stage weekly UFC fights. So yeah, that's weird. And go give it a read, because it is just bizarre what this guy's trying to do with his organization and basically turn it into a fighting game tournament. And with that, I think we can get into It's Raining Deals. AJ, I see you've got a couple on the list this week, so have at it.
Yeah, so Game Pass Ultimate, which is the combination of Xbox Live Gold and Game Pass specifically, where they took the two and they combined them together and just put it under one SKU, I'll call it.
As well as PC Game Pass as well.
As well as PC Game Pass. It's going to be $1 for new subscribers, and that's pretty awesome. So if you don't even have Game Pass, and I believe this is only for a month, I think your first month is only $1.
I couldn't find the end date of the deal. I tried to look for it. I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, so if you've been looking to get into Game Pass, but like the $15 was pushing it for you, maybe $1 can help push you over the edge and give you a taste of what you're missing. And then Stadia Pro is going to be free for the next 2 months for everybody.
So your weird pyramid scheme, are you trying to get everyone involved in it now?
Yes, I need more friends. Everybody make a Stadia account. All 4 of you make a Stadia account and please be my friend.
There might be enough Guardians to fill a Destiny 2 lobby.
I would like Cozy. I would like to see you boot up Stadia on your new fancy PC and just stream it and play a Stadia game on your PC streaming that.
I am gonna note down, look into Google Stadia right now, and I'm going to, maybe not directly after I finish stream tonight, but at some time over the next few days, I will definitely download it and see what the fuss is all about.
I think it's a bit of a slow rollout. I think you were saying, Mitch, and it might not be available to everybody yet, but like all the other Stadia features, it'll take some time.
They've said that within 48 hours, all existing Stadia markets will get access to this promotion. So
great.
By the time the show comes out, everyone should be able to access it if they so choose.
Yeah.
And speaking of Game Pass Ultimate, Baby Boy Ballant, I saw that you shared something earlier today that I also took advantage of. So go ahead with that.
Yeah, so on Halo's Twitter account, they posted a partnership that they're having with Meta Threads, which I believe is a clothing company. It's like a gaming clothing company, and they're doing a shirt called the "We Got This Spartans" shirt, and it's going to be available through April 21st. And every purchase comes with 1 month of Xbox Game Pass, which is pretty awesome, as well as all of the profits. 100% of the profits are going to global giving and coronavirus relief fund. So it's just, for one, it's a really nice shirt. It's got like the UNSC logo on it, and it's got the hashtag "We Got This Spartans." It says hope and love on it, and then it says Halo 2020 on the sleeve. It's a really nice shirt, as well as it's just also going to a really good cause. So if you want to look into that, it's metathreads.com/Halo Relief.
And I think Alex and I both retweeted that. So if you can't find it buried in Halo's Twitter account, we both put it up there. So
I am retweeting
definitely
it right now.
Something worth checking out. That is technically the second COVID-19 relief shirt that I've bought, because I also purchased Andy Cortez's Nitro Rifle shirt, in which all of the proceeds are going towards COVID relief. So,
woo!
That's just one of those things.
Yeah, it's a
and
good cause.
With that, we all good? We ready?
Oh yeah,
ready to get into this thing? All right, it is time for our topic of the show. So
Nips.
This week, we are going to play Player's Choice, where we will collaborate on a list of the most important RPGs of all time.
And this is in celebration of Final Fantasy VII Remake being the last major game to actually come out in the year 2020.
It's still not out yet as of the time of this recording.
It's
Anything
out in
could happen.
Australia and Europe, and that's
it
what matters.
It broke the street date. It's not quite out yet.
Okay, so to tangent a bit, with what happened to Final Fantasy VII Remake, I can understand why developers like Naughty Dog, like Camouflage, and just Sony as a whole want to push their games out indefinitely, because you don't want to have a staggered release for something like The Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah, that would suck.
Final Fantasy VII is a game people know, people love, people reminisce about, so there's less spoilers there. I've heard that there are still some pretty major departures from the original game, which I'm looking forward to playing all day Friday, because I didn't realize when I purchased the game digitally that Friday is a national holiday. So
I'm
I
not getting
this
it
game
till
all day
Tuesday.
on Friday.
I bought it on.
No.
So I canceled my Amazon pre-order for it, and I bought it on Walmart. But Walmart actually had a better ship date than Amazon. So physical copies, they're so great.
Except for right now, because the world is going to shit.
So,
Yeah.
I want to just say quickly.
Player's choice. Let's get back to it. Okay,
No, hold on. It is related to the subject of Final Fantasy and
Okay.
player's choice. Normally, I'm not somebody who tends to get a whole lot of games the date that they exactly come out, but this is a game that I've been meaning to get, and the reviews for it are so high that I think I might actually get it. Maybe like not right away because there's still some stuff I need to do over the next week or so, but like
I'm passing on it.
like a week and a half from now, I think I'm going to go for it.
Promise not to spoil it for you.
Yeah, it's not a problem.
Who else is buying Final Fantasy VII Remake as soon as it comes out?
No.
Oh, interesting.
But with Final Fantasy VII, just with all the uncertainty of everything right now, I have to pass on new games for a little bit. Plus, I've got a ton of review things that I've got to catch up on.
That's understandable. Well, let me know if you want to borrow Doom Eternal, because once Final Fantasy VII comes out, that's all I'm going to be playing. So, topic of the show. Player's choice. Most important RPGs of all time. I know last week we said JRPGs. Do we want to limit ourselves in scope to just JRPGs, or do we want to say, blow the doors off, we're talking any RPG that's ever come out?
I think for the purposes of discussion and based on my personal experience, I think it'd be more... it would be better to broaden the definition of RPG a little bit more.
More entertaining, right?
I wouldn't call my answers entertaining, but sure.
Yeah.
That is also true.
Earlier,
Nathan, Cozy, any strong opinions one way or the other?
I mean, earlier I said that we should, if we're going to expand it to be all RPGs, that we should make it so that we're deciding on more than just 10. I think that we should keep it to just 10 for now, but seeing on how the conversation goes, maybe we can be flexible with that number.
We've got some time.
Yeah, for sure.
We're not too far into the show. If we have to run a little longer than usual, so
Yeah.
be it. We're still under an hour, so we got time.
So
Do we? I
that
think
being
we might.
said, how do we define what an RPG is?
I think first, in terms of the rules, 1 game per series. We don't need 7 Final Fantasies on this list. Fair?
I see. That's the thing is, I feel like the argument can definitely be made for multiple Final Fantasies because they've, meant different things and allowed for different advances within the genre at different times. So,
This conversation will never end if we get to that point because Cozy and I want every Pokemon
well, but we're
game
only
on this
gonna
list.
we're gonna limit ourselves in terms of how many RPGs that we can bring forward to the table, right? So it's not like we're gonna be talking forever.
Says you.
We have a lot of time. You said it yourself. Remember?
I could talk all night. I have nothing better to do tonight. That's why I'm here with you guys.
All right.
I kid. Okay, so no limitations, no holds barred. We're just going for it. This list could be as crazy or as long as it ends up friggin' being. All right.
Hell yeah.
Who wants to get the ball rolling?
I will. All right. So I've been pretty quiet this episode because my voice has been a little sore, so I've been resting it because I want to get my input in on RPGs. And because we've already talked about Final Fantasy, let's just get it out there because it's probably the most famous RPG series. But I'm going to go with Final Fantasy IX
Isn't that the one everyone hates?
as the one that deserves to be on the list. No, 12's the one everybody
Okay.
hates. 12 and 8.
Oh, it's 8. Okay, that's what I was thinking of. Fair enough.
Yeah. 9's the last one on the PlayStation 1 where they went back to the more fantasy settings. The crystals were back in play, and it felt like one of the more original Final Fantasy games.
Okay.
But in 3D with the updated mechanics.
So could you see something like Final Fantasy IX being the sole representation from that series on this list? Is it the one that has to be here over 10, over
So,
10-2, over 7,
the problem-
over some of the older ones? I've never played a Final Fantasy game, so this is all on y'all who have played them.
So if you're talking the best Final Fantasies, you're going to talk 4, 6, 7, and 9, and 10 probably. Like, those are the top 5. 10 will usually come off. People like 10, but it's not like the revered. 7 people will say because it's their first introduction into Final Fantasy because of what it did on the PlayStation 1. But a lot of people feel Final Fantasy 9 is a better game than Final Fantasy 7. So I'm fine with it, and it's our list.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
So, but 6 is really good too on the Super Nintendo. I've played it multiple times, and 4 has heart moments that make you cry. So they've all got their own strengths of those ones.
Okay. Does anyone have any strong
I don't know.
opinions on any of the other games of the series? Or are we just going to throw 9 up there for now and have at it with the rest of the list? Cozy?
I mean, I'm kind of with you where, like, I feel like in terms of the most important JRPGs of all time, I feel like I would be more inclined to say 6 or 7. But as somebody who doesn't have any experience with Final Fantasy IX, I don't feel like I'm in a position to say, well, no, we shouldn't have this one on the list. So I'd say we can just move on for the time being.
I mean, you did raise a valid point. We're not talking the best JRPGs or RPGs of all time. We're talking the most important, most impact. Do we feel like that is still 9 over any of the other ones?
Yeah, and well, okay. So most important, most impact. Everybody's bringing their own game to the list. I think it doesn't have to be. We don't have to worry about everybody else's feelings. We just have to worry about the 5 of us. And if it means something super important over everything else to the 5 of us, then I think that counts because it is our list.
The only thing I will say about this, because I really don't have any like say, or not say, but I don't really have an opinion that much, is as somebody who's very unfamiliar with Final Fantasy, I know nothing of 9, or at least 7 is more iconic, because I know characters like Cloud and Tifa and Sephiroth, that's it. Azeroth's from Warcraft.
Azeroth, Metreon, Zinthos.
All right,
That's a different RPG.
All right, that's the end of my opinion. Never mind.
So we actually did get a write-in on Twitter. So this is coming to us from a friend of the show, Justin
Hell
Das,
yeah.
who wrote in saying FF6 and FF7 when it comes to Final Fantasy games. So I feel like we need to put all 3 on the list for now and then narrow it down later. That's how I feel. So
I said all
right.
3 of those. Like they're all.
Yeah, let's do it.
Like there's
All right.
5
Let's do it.
really great Final Fantasy games. So it is what it is.
Slight tangent. Is 8 the one that they lost the source code for? I think.
Yeah, that's the one that just came out as the Final Fantasy VIII remastered, where they were able to. I don't know what they did, but
They had to. Yeah. Yeah, the story is they lost the source code or something like that.
They basically had to rewrite it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they managed to kind of recover it.
Okay, so we've gotten through our Final Fantasy fix. I need something. Someone give me something new. Alex, what we got?
All right. Well, if we're talking about important RPGs, this is not just an important RPG. This is just an important video game, in my opinion. And it is a game that when it came out in 2011, no one could stop talking about it. It was
Skyrim.
it was huge, and it's The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Skyrim. I saw you writing The Witcher
We'll get to it.
on the
We'll
list.
Get to it.
The Witcher. That was The Witcher 2 that came out in 2011. But either way, Skyrim was huge when it came out. People who didn't play video games were talking about Skyrim. Everyone played that game. I lost weeks
To
of
this
my
day,
life to
they are
that
still
game.
making new ports of that game to new.
Fun story.
Yeah.
I just bought for the first time The Witcher 3 and The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim.
Congratulations.
Like no one gave a shit about Oblivion.
Yes,
Well,
they did. That was
I gave
huge.
a shit about Oblivion.
Nobody outside of the gaming sphere cared about Oblivion.
That's not. Yeah.
Sure.
And people didn't care about Morrowind in the same vein. I'm not saying that those games weren't popular. They were, but not to the level that Skyrim was. Skyrim was. I mean, it was huge. It was the game of 2011. When I think back to that year, and I mean, what other game can you have Thomas the Tank Engine as a dragon?
Okay, you can't talk about mods. Like that's.
Sure,
no.
I can. That's such a huge part
You
of
can mod
Skyrim.
any game on PC though. You could have Thomas the Tank Engine in
Yeah,
a
but it
friggin'
was-
Power Rangers fighting game if you wanted. It
hell
didn't
yeah.
matter.
But Skyrim was it was such a part of Skyrim's identity that when it came to Xbox One, they added mod support to it, and that's why I think it's so vital to the identity of Skyrim.
Do you remember when they tried to monetize the mods on Steam
Oh, yeah.
or
That
something
did
like
not
that?
go well.
Yeah. That didn't
Yeah.
work out well for them. Good. It's almost looked like good intentions, but yeah, they fumbled that real hard.
So
Yeah.
I really
But yeah,
I really
that's
like
my pick.
Skyrim. It probably does deserve to be on the list. My biggest issue with Skyrim is just I put like 90 hours into it, and I don't think I saw a quarter of the story because I just kept getting pulled every single way I could.
But I think that's part of the charm of that game too, is that like you really can just kind of get lost in that world. That the main story of Skyrim is probably the least interesting part of that game. And I think that, I mean, you could see that as a downside, but I think that was a real plus of just getting lost in the world.
So much of Skyrim in general is the exploring of it and building the story on your own and trying to piece together like what happened in these ruins and all of that as you go exploring, and you try and figure the other side stories out as you go.
Now, do we feel like, I know Skyrim was very important culturally, but in terms of its impact on the games industry, I feel like Morrowind actually did a lot more in terms of shaping what Western RPGs would end up becoming over the years as opposed to Skyrim. So do we feel like we could have a list with one and not the other?
Yeah,
Oh, and
Yeah.
it's Skyrim over Morrowind?
I would go. So
Yes.
I couldn't, and maybe
Yeah.
my head didn't understand Morrowind, but I bought it, really excited to play it, and then got lost and didn't understand what to do when I got into that game. And maybe I just wasn't
Cool.
ready for
I
it
mean,
at the time.
I mean, given that I'm
Yeah.
probably 90 minutes into Skyrim, I can't really say one way or another. So if you guys are saying Skyrim, then it's Skyrim.
Morrowind is a little obtuse. They fixed all that with Oblivion, and then I think Skyrim took the formula and sort of modernized it and more or less perfected it.
I mean, I think that the thing about those games, and this isn't just exclusive to the Elder Scrolls series, is that when people talk about what makes those games so great, they tend to talk on the macro level, like you're in this giant fantasy world where you can go anywhere and do anything. And they don't talk about how on the micro level, like actually, you know, managing your inventory and the skills that you use and the base mechanics of the game can be a little like obtuse and weird, and I'd imagine that that was probably what turned you off when you got into Morrowind, basically.
Now I have a question for this list. We say RPGs. Is that JRPG, tactical RPG, action RPG? Where are we drawing the line? Because I have one I want to
Blank
put on the list,
RPG.
and Nathan's going to hate me.
I don't want our action RPGs on the list because I don't like if we're in games like, and I love Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I think it's great. It doesn't deserve to be on the list. Breath of the Wild shouldn't be on the list. I knew that was going to be the game.
Yeah, Breath of the Wild's an adventure game.
Yeah,
Like
I
or
think
like an action adventure game. Like yeah.
there's so many games which have RPG elements because the elements are so good that they're being adopted into so many different types of genres now. But I think we should avoid that. Tactical RPGs, like they're an RPG at heart. Tactical RPGs, JRPGs, even Western RPGs, you're role playing as a character, and that's the focus of the game. So,
Fine. So I'll say shout outs then to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which is an amazing action adventure game that I feel has RPG elements, but it's fine.
Go ahead, Cozy.
I mean, yeah, no. I thought for a quick second that you were going to say
No.
The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, which, right? Well, that's the whole thing, and I should state for the record that, like, I believe it was Per Schneider on Nintendo Voice Chef that was explaining this, how back in the day, Nintendo specifically marketed Ocarina of Time as a role-playing game because the Nintendo 64 didn't have a lot of role-playing games. So they figured if they could market it as that, it would be a way for them to fill that hole in the console's kind of catalog of games. And ever since then, people have like had the habit of labeling the Zelda series as role-playing games, which certainly they have role-playing elements in them, but it's not a
Then I'm going to
role-playing
shout
game
out two
at
more
heart.
action RPGs that I think are phenomenal that people should still check out, and that is Deus Ex Human Revolution.
Yeah, I mean,
And sorry, go ahead.
well, I was going to say I would actually be fine with you putting that as a legitimate choice on this list, but yeah, it's fine if you don't want to.
Yeah, if we want to limit the scope, then we can leave that off. The other one that I wanted to put on the list because I love it is Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2, but it's more of an action RPG. If we want those off the list, we can say forget
like-
about it. But a game that has
I
sorry,
was just going to say I don't think Diablo should be on either. But anyway, sorry. Go ahead. I interrupted you. My apologies.
okay, the one that I actually do want to put on this list is a traditional RPG is a Western RPG, but don't let that fool you because this has very deep RPG mechanics, and that game is South Park: The Stick of Truth.
Oh, I was going to bring this one up. It's on my list.
Relatively modern, written and developed by Obsidian, who have deep RPG roots. The systems are great. The humor is phenomenal. It's definitely a different take on a traditional RPG. It is not traditional in terms of its storytelling, and it just does such a good job with a licensed IP that I don't think, honestly, in terms of licensed games, I think the two recent South Park games, that being The Stick of Truth and The Fractured But Whole, I have to leave that gap there, otherwise I sound profane.
Have gap the butthole.
Damn it, AJ. We're never going to get sponsored if you keep talking like this.
Or we'll get really cool sponsors.
Well, like Pornhub and Brazzers. And
Dude, that would be
all
awesome.
fun stuff.
That. They make lots of money.
So those South Park games have been phenomenal uses of a licensed IP, and I feel like this list will be lacking of licensed IPs, and that is one that I want to be on the list, at least for now. If we drop it later, fine, but I definitely want The Stick of Truth to be somewhere near this list.
It should be on the list.
So, can I go next?
Of course.
All right. The reason
Unless
why
anyone has anything else to say about South Park.
Well, I kind of do, and it actually ties into the first game that I wanted to bring up.
Go for it.
South Park: The Stick of Truth, phenomenal game. However, I feel like we're talking about the most important RPGs of all time. I feel like it would be weird to list South Park: The Stick of Truth and not the game that directly influenced South Park: The Stick of Truth's design, and that's Paper Mario on the Nintendo 64. Paper Mario on the Nintendo 64 may not be necessarily as polished or as funny of an experience as South Park: The Stick of Truth, but it basically kind of created a new genre of role-playing game, the Paper Mario style role-playing game, which is a role-playing game where the mechanics are relatively simple, but that simplicity allows the kind of like world and humor of the game to really kind of rise to the forefront a lot more strongly. And I just feel like for that reason alone, in terms of importance, Paper Mario definitely has I'm not going to say it's going to be on this list when all is said and done, but I think that it has a good shot at being here.
Now, can I throw a curveball at you, Cozy?
Sure.
I had in mind 3 Mario RPGs that could potentially make this list.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like Paper Mario is actually the weakest of the 3.
Okay.
So those 3 are Super Mario RPG, Paper Mario, and Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door.
So Super Mario RPG, it's interesting because Super Mario RPG mechanically is very similar to Paper Mario. Paper Mario is kind of an evolution of what Super Mario RPG started out doing. But what does it say that like gaming culture as a whole call RPGs like South Park: The Stick of Truth a Paper Mario style RPG and not a Super Mario RPG style RPG? Like, I feel like something happened in the transition from Super Mario RPG to Paper Mario that I feel really solidified what that genre was. So
Sure.
that's what I think about. I mean, Super Mario RPG, phenomenal game. I'm not saying don't put it on the list, but that's just my thought there. And then with Paper Mario: Thousand Year Door, I mean, the thing about that game is that it is kind of just... I mean, I guess this is where we really get into the nitty-gritty of what is most important, right? Like, is it a better game? I mean, I think so, but like, it is very much an evolution over Paper Mario and not a revolution. So...
A Nintendo revolution.
Well, but it wasn't even on the Revolution, it was on the GameCube.
Okay, it was a joke because they called the Wii the revolution. God damn it, Cozy.
Come on.
All right, so I think, yeah, I like what you brought there. I do think Paper Mario is probably more influential as a game, so let's leave that there on the list, and we'll toss those other 2 Mario RPGs in the dumpster because that's what you said, and that's not nice.
I didn't say toss them in the dumpster.
AJ, you've been awfully quiet.
Mass Effect 2.
Sure.
Woo! Hell yeah!
I knew this was coming.
That was my next choice.
Yeah, it's a good thing that this isn't a competition.
Yeah, really.
Oh yeah, I'd be mad at you if this was 5x5.
Oh my god. So Mass Effect 2
Mass Effect didn't work out for you last week, Alex. Just saying.
That's because I chose the bad one.
Yeah, and that was a mistake.
So, like the original Mass Effect was really good, but it definitely had a lot of influence from the time before it, if that makes sense. And I think while it was more action focused, Mass Effect 2 definitely was able to, especially in terms of story elements, like it brought a lot more focus and influence into especially into the industry as a whole, because it was a big deal in 2010 when that thing came out. But yeah, I've played through Mass Effect 1 a whole bunch of times just so I can play Mass Effect 2 again and have a continuous through line every time. Like, the only reason I play through Mass Effect 1 is so I can play Mass Effect.
Yeah, this was one. So I purchased the Mass Effect trilogy relatively late in the PS3 life cycle, and it is one of my biggest gaming regrets is that I've not played those games to completion.
Such
I've
a travesty.
got where I think the PS3 is in storage. I know Mass Effect trilogy is, but if they could give me a way to play that on a modern system, I'd be so freaking happy, especially right now.
Yeah.
Build a PC.
I'm considering it, much to the chagrin of my fiance, who I hardly ever get to see anymore, so that's beside the point.
But one of the lame things about just really quickly, one of the lame things about all of the
Ugh, you okay?
Oh my god, he just hit puberty.
I'm really glad we record
I'm
this
getting-
remotely.
He's
I'm getting really getting really emotional.
Oh, I
about
thought it was
this,
more of a
but,
cough related to COVID-19, but whatever.
I thought it was puberty.
No. Yeah, just the PC versions of all the Mass Effect games doesn't have controller support, and I think that's really a shame because those games are
That's awful.
much better on controller.
You could probably mod it in, but yeah, if it's
Yeah,
not in
but-
there natively, I get it. That's kind of dumb.
That's literally it. It wasn't that big a deal, but for some reason just
It broke your heart.
Do you mind it?
Yeah,
Do
it
you mind
does.
if I bring a game to this list that would be top 5 for me, but probably doesn't make top 10 with y'all?
Yeah.
sure.
That game is a very unique, or it's a sequel, but it is, the series as a whole is very unique in terms of its style. It sort of started a bit of a revolution when it comes to the genre that it sort of pioneered back in the day. It is a card-based tactical-ish RPG, and it's a spin-off of one of the most iconic video game characters of all time. That game is Mega Man Battle Network 3
I like
Blue
the
version.
Battle Network games.
Why the blue version?
That's the one I owned. But we could just call it Mega Man
I don't
Battle
know
Network
if
3.
it belongs
That's fine.
on the top 10 list. I do appreciate the Battle Network. There was one or two of them I played. They're not like up there, but I think they're good.
So, just a little background there. That series of games is one of my favorite series of all time. I own the art book. I own multiple copies of multiple versions of these games. I pulled the DS Lite out of storage so I could restart this game recently. It's a game that is near and dear to me. I know it's not near and dear to everybody, but I had to say it. Otherwise, I would have been kicking myself at the end of this show.
Okay. If everybody's gone, I'm going to talk about the game that needs to be on the list. I've
Yeah.
already brought up one famous Japanese RPG. We need to talk about Chrono Trigger.
I already wrote it down because you couldn't stop talking about it. Was it last week?
It
or
was last
no,
week,
it was
yeah.
last week, yeah.
Chrono Trigger is the best RPG. It's got the art by the creator of Dragon Ball Z. Its story, it's got like 23 different endings. The characters are awesome. The battle system's awesome.
It would be nice
it's
if
just
they
a
released it on a platform that I could actually play it on.
You can play it on a 3DS.
I don't have one of those.
You can play it on a DS.
Don't have one of those either.
Stop selling your video game systems, guys.
It's on Steam.
Is it on Steam?
There's a Steam version of it.
If that's the case, then I might...
There was
Oh,
there was a controversy with
was-
that,
yeah.
wasn't there? There was a problem.
So it was the iOS port that they did, but apparently they fixed it
Yeah.
over time.
Oh, okay. Then.
They have fixed
they?
it.
I'm gonna take a look at
So
this.
there were a lot of improvements they made to that. But yeah, Chrono Trigger is available to play on Steam right now. I would love to see, I don't know why there just isn't a straight port of some of the older Final Fantasies and Chrono Triggers on the Switch or PlayStation. Seeing how they've got every modern PlayStation game since 7. I don't understand why they haven't ported any of the collections in 1, 2, or 3, 4, 5, 6, or the Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, it makes the list for sure.
Cool.
Cool. Cozy, it's been a while. What's up?
See, here's the thing. I'm looking at my list. I'm like, do I want to go with more of a kind of standard option, or do I want to go with more of a unusual option that I nonetheless think is important?
Yeah.
I'm just going to go with the standard one, Persona 4.
Damn it. Wait, which version of Persona 4?
I mean, Golden?
Oh, thank God.
Yes.
What, were you going to recommend just Persona 4 Vanilla?
No. For me, I was going to bring up Persona 4 Golden next as well. So feel free, and
okay.
I'll chime in where I feel like I have input.
I mean, if you want, you can bring up Persona 4 Golden next, and I can bring up a series that you definitely were not going to bring up.
Go for it.
All right. Kingdom Hearts 2.
I was totally going to bring up Kingdom Hearts. God damn it, Cozy.
Are you certain?
You're full
Yeah,
of
it
it.
was top of my list.
Are you
Why don't you two
certain?
tag team
Yes.
this one? Although I'd like to talk about Persona.
All right.
But
Whatever.
You guys keep talking about Kingdom Hearts.
All right. Let me ask you a question. Who is the final boss that you fight in Kingdom Hearts 2?
Donald Duck.
Shit, I played it last year. I should know
No,
this.
it's Xenomorph.
That's a made-up name.
Xenomorph.
No, it's...
You got...
Is it Xehanort?
Axe. Xehanort.
No, it's
No.
it's Riku possessed by Xehanort? Or was that the first
No.
one?
Remember, this is Kingdom Hearts 2.
That was the end of
Is
Kingdom
it
Hearts.
Aqua?
I'm making this up.
The answer...
Axe.
The answer that you were looking for was Xemnas,
Fuck yeah, Xemnas.
which is Ansem's name rearranged, but with an X inserted at the beginning.
Because it was Ansem's Heartless.
Because he got
Yeah.
Norded.
Did get
Or
Norded.
sort of, kind of. Anyways,
Kingdom Hearts is
2.
weird.
The original Kingdom Hearts game is, a much beloved classic of the early PlayStation 2 era. I feel like it was Kingdom Hearts 2 that really made the series... It transformed the series from a kind of like lighthearted, simple and clean series that mashed together Final Fantasy and Disney characters and turned it into... for better or for worse, Kingdom Hearts 2 turned the series into the super bizarre, intensely story-driven cluster effort that it currently is today. And I think that it is, even though there are definitely problems with it going in this direction, I think that it undeniably sticks out. Like, earlier we talked about like Paper Mario and Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door, Paper Mario Thousand Year Door being kind of evolutionary. I would say that Kingdom Hearts 2, by bringing its story into this new kind of maxim, is really kind of revolutionary, even though mechanically it's not too different from the first game.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt. My apologies.
Yeah. No, I'm done, basically. I know that you guys your heads are going to explode if I talk too much longer about this game.
Dude,
so.
I could talk about Kingdom Hearts with you for
So
hours.
Kingdom Hearts...
Are you sure? You couldn't even mention who the final boss was.
Okay, it's been a while, okay? I would do research.
All right.
I have played them all. Except
Nathan...
Go ahead.
So Kingdom Hearts 1, I didn't love when it came out, and I'm not sure why, because I like Disney. I liked Final Fantasy characters, and I thought it would be a natural fit. And something about the platforming just never worked for me. And actually, recently going back to it.
Can I interject there?
Oh yeah.
Sorry, I just want to say, when I was a kid and I rented Kingdom Hearts from a Blockbuster, I couldn't get off the introductory island because I couldn't figure out where to go.
So
That's it.
I recently went back and played Kingdom Hearts 1 again because I bought the collection, and while I'm a better gamer, I still think a lot of those platform issues exist. That being said, Kingdom Hearts 2 I couldn't get enough of, and I played a ton of. The Steamboat Willie level, Tron, Pirates of the Caribbean really opened up what the options were for those games. So, and I'm not a Pirates of the Caribbean fan in any way, but it was just cool to see Captain Jack Sparrow at that time, 12 years ago, on the screen. No, it's more than 12 years ago. 14 years ago.
Yeah, it's
14
gotta
or
be more than
15.
12. Can I just say quickly that the Lonely Island do a wonderful parody of the Pirates of the Caribbean theme with Michael Bolton, and if you haven't checked it out, please do. It's so good. Jack Sparrow by the Lonely Island featuring Michael
I
Bolton.
want to start singing it right now.
This is the tale
of Captain Jack Sparrow.
Captain Jack Sparrow.
We're gonna get a copyright strike.
I digress. Get back to the actual
Sorry.
conversation. It's okay. We don't post this anywhere where anyone listens
I
to
like
it.
my
AJ,
song better.
you have feelings on Kingdom Hearts?
So I was a lot of my friend group back in high school played the crap out of Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2. So I got a fairly decent outsider's perspective watching them like come into school the next day and be like, "Oh my god, did you see that? Holy crap, oh my god." Freaking out about it, drawing fan art about it, all that fun stuff. For me personally, growing up, I was never that big of a Disney fan. So and I was also never a very big Final Fantasy fan. So having something that that had elements of both of those together, even though it was a little more action oriented, just never really passed me by. It totally passed me by. It never really appealed to me that much. I will say when it comes to Kingdom Hearts 3, that is on Game Pass now, and it is very tempting to just pick it up there and just
I would
give
say
it a shot.
it is still worth going back if you can get your hands on Kingdom Hearts 1.5 plus 2.5 HD remix on a deal. Those games are still a lot of fun to play. So when I was a kid, I didn't play through these games. I played through them all. When Kingdom Hearts 3 was January 2019, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. After that long on, yes, I was confirmed. So I think I started playing through these games shortly after I returned from Walt Disney World Resort, where I got engaged to my lovely fiance. So I've gained an appreciation for Disney over the years that I don't think I really had as a kid. So playing through them as an adult, I actually feel like I appreciated more of the Final Fantasy elements and Disney elements in these games. So they're definitely worth going back and checking out now. I really enjoyed that series, even though it makes no sense.
I will say, having a girlfriend who is into Disney and can introduce that stuff to me that just completely passed me by as a kid has been an absolute blessing, because there's things that I didn't even know really existed or had no real reverence for that I really have learned to appreciate.
I do also
as an
appreciate
adult
that at
now.
your birthday party you introduced me to your girlfriend as that guy that got engaged at Disney World, and that's all she would talk to me about all night. And I feel like we'll get to that story at some point. We'll do a one-on-one or something, and we'll have like a.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Have all of you guys been like pulling the hood underneath my eyes for all these weeks? Whenever I've brought up Kingdom Hearts, you guys have all been like, Kingdom Hearts, blah blah blah.
When is the last time you brought up Kingdom Hearts?
Yeah, I don't remember this.
There was definitely an episode at some point in the past where it was brought up prominently, and now we just spent like 15 minutes talking about this series.
Okay, if you brought it up in a game of 5x5 that I was hosting, what was likely happening is that I was just trying to crap on you for entertainment. But in all honesty, I really do enjoy those games. So I apologize.
So I think it was given to me in a 5x5 for best villain or something. At some
You had to
point,
make
and
up. I think it was a raising for a Xehanort.
That's
or
right.
something.
As much as
Xehanort.
And as much as I've played Kingdom Hearts 2, it was 14 or 15 years ago, and the story is incomprehensible to people who played it 2 years ago in a lot of ways. So
That is me, and I would agree.
yeah. I like Kingdom Hearts. I don't understand what happened.
And moving on to the next game on the list, Nathan, you and me going to tag team this one, and that is Persona 4 Golden.
Okay,
aka the only real reason to own a PlayStation Vita.
Before we talk,
I mean, there's also Plants vs. Zombies on the Vita.
Plants vs. Zombies is literally everywhere.
Yeah, but the Vita version was the best version.
Splunky's on the Vita.
Spelunky is phenomenal.
Little Big Planet Vita is really good.
When you ask somebody why they own a Vita, 90% of those people are going to say Persona 4 Golden because it is the best version of that game.
Yeah,
it is wonderful. It is portable. It is so deep. I still have never actually finished it. It's something I do need to get back to because it is just such a dense RPG, which actually might be perfect for right now. And I think after this, I'm going to go plug in my Vita and give that a charge and play that at some point. But Nathan, why does Persona 4 Golden need to be on this list?
So, and here's the question for it, and I just want to throw this out there. Have you guys played any of the other Personas besides 5?
I played Persona 3 and most of the Persona 4
I've only
spin-off
played
games.
Persona 4 Golden.
Okay. Okay. I think Persona 5 is really good. I think Persona 4 Golden probably deserves to be on the list, but strong shoutouts to Persona 3 Portable, which you can also play in the Vita and you should play.
Yeah.
Because I think it's really good. But there's just something about the characters, the music, the setting of the town, the story, being sucked into the TV world. All the characters are really great, although there are some issues with certain character developments, especially near the end of the game, but I don't want to say anything about that. But overall, Persona 4 Golden is one of those special games that everybody should play. And
are we talking like Game of Thrones Season 8 character development issues, or are we talking like, I don't know.
There's some changes at the end of the game in the way things are treated in terms of context and how it relates to Japanese, like Japan and their themes. And I don't want to say anything.
So it's cultural differences.
Cultural differences, and I don't think they translate super well. But overall, Persona 4 Golden
slightly
is a special
problematic.
game.
Yeah, and I think it definitely has to.
Problematic. Maybe
Sorry,
that's the best word for it.
Yeah. Sorry, I just want to say quickly, I know that a lot of people have a lot of love for Persona 3. I actually played Persona 3 after completing Persona 4 Golden, and I was not super pleased with my time with it. I should state that I played Persona 3 FES on the PlayStation 2 and not the PlayStation Portable version, which brought some improvements here and there. I think that Persona 3 to Persona 4, in my eyes, is very much like Super Mario RPG to Paper Mario, where mechanically both are very similar, but I feel like they make just enough improvements and tweaks in the right places that it almost becomes like an entirely, like, it really kind of defines a genre when you get around to Persona 4 in a way that I feel like Persona 3 was getting there. But that's just me.
Yeah, and like a lot of those tweaks, even in Persona 5, and with Persona 5 Royal just coming out, they constantly update. I think the characters are really good in Persona 5, but I think the characters in Persona 4 are probably just slightly better, and that's going to win it overall for me. But things in Persona 5, like the music, the menus, the style, it looks gorgeous. The way they've designed actual dungeons instead of just randomly generated floors that you're going through continuously. So, I think there's a reason for both four Golden and 5 to be on the list, but I think if we had to pick one,
let's stick with that for now, because what I want to do right now, before we get into anyone else's picks, is I've got a list of 10 games that I don't really want to argue. I just sort of want to go through them and give them a yes or no as to whether they should be on this list for discussion later. You all down for that? Okay. So, no, this is just
from Twitter?
I'll do the Twitter. I can do the Twitter ones after my list. So, my list of remaining games that should maybe be on this list: Mario Luigi Superstar Saga. Yes or no?
No.
I mean, I love that game. That game is a top 3 game in my book, but no.
Valkyria Chronicles.
I didn't play that one. I can't speak to it. No.
The World Ends With You.
No.
Really? Come.
I have to say no, but I know that people really
love it too. All right, now we're getting into the Pokemon corner. Pokemon Yellow.
I think there needs to be one Pokemon game.
I mean,
at least.
yeah, but I mean, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Does it have to be yellow? I don't
think it's yellow.
I've got 3 here, and I think it's one of these 3, and I want to see what you guys think. So the 3 I have are Yellow, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and Sword and Shield.
Heart Gold, Soul Silver.
I have no stake in this race. I played Blue and I played Shield. So
Yeah, the ones I played are not on this list.
I mean, I personally would go yellow.
Okay, what if I put Emerald in there?
Are you? Is that a play specifically to get my attention?
More or less, yeah.
I mean, I feel like in terms of importance, we still have to go with yellow.
Yellow. Okay.
wait, now is it yellow or red/blue? That we should be looking at. Because yellow's the one which forces you into Pikachu.
It forces Pikachu on you, and it takes elements in from the anime, like Jesse and James and stuff.
I actually think, looking back at this now, the most important Pokemon games are Red and Blue. We're looking at most important. That's the
Green.
one that has to make the red and green in Japan, red and blue in the US, whatever.
Blue came out in Japan.
Did it? That was
Yeah.
red and green.
Yeah, all three.
So
went-
blue was a patched version
Yeah.
of red and green.
That's right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So we're
Yeah.
agreeing. We're settling then on red and blue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Blue specifically because Blastoise #1, baby.
Yeah. Blastoise best boy.
Yeah, Blastoise. That's where I would fall blue. That's what
Okay.
I played though. So
All right. So the rest of my short little list that I've got here: Final Fantasy Tactics.
I don't love tactics games. So, but
I mean, I feel like that's very much kind of, if we were a slightly different group of podcasters, I feel like we would all be like, yes, I know that game is a very cult following. I've never played it, so I don't have an opinion on it.
Yeah, I've played a little bit of it, the PSP version on the Vita, but I can't speak too much to it, which is
War of
why
the
I was
Lions?
in this. Yeah, War of the Lions, which is why it's just sort of in this amalgamation of games. I thought I'd throw at you guys. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt.
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
AJ,
Absolutely. Witcher 3.
that does it then. This is one's going to be controversial because it's the first MMO that is being put out there. World of Warcraft.
I didn't play it
That
enough.
influential?
No.
Absolutely. It was very influential.
Is it a role playing game?
It's an
Yeah,
MMO RPG.
RPG.
Yeah.
You're building your stats and you're leveling up, just like any other
Yeah,
But
okay,
it-
okay.
but
proper RPG.
But it is,
it just
looting
happens to be
and-
with multiple people.
Yeah, but you're looting
It's
and
very
you're doing things
deep.
like Diablo.
Yeah, it's very Diablo-esque, and I wouldn't necessarily put Diablo on the list. It's like a
Diablo 2
multiplayer
would
version
go on,
of
should
Diablo.
go on the list. Diablo 2.
Nah.
No?
Nah.
Ah, okay, well, fuck you too.
Yeah, you're welcome. The last one I
Okay.
have here is specifically for Nathan. Nathan, we have to get this
Okay.
on the list somehow. Digimon World.
No.
Can I not say Digimon World, and we can say Digimon Sleuth?
Wait a minute. Hold on.
Which one?
Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth?
Hold on just a quick second here.
Not Hacker's Memory?
No, the first one.
first
I
one?
haven't played Hacker's Memory. I
Okay,
want
they're
to
both-
play
they're-
Hacker's Memory. I just
They're
haven't.
both
done it.
real good. Go ahead, Cozy.
I just had a
Yeah.
brainwave. Does Tamagotchi count as an RPG?
It's more like a sim, isn't
I was
it?
going to say, then The Sims is an
Yeah,
RPG.
it's a simulator.
Yeah.
And if anything, it's going to be the Digivice that makes it, not the Tamagotchi.
Yeah. No, yeah. I think if we were going to put one Digimon, Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth is probably the way to go.
All right, let's put it there. I don't think it makes the top 10, but I wanted it to have some
No.
representation on this list.
It's really good.
It is real good.
It's much better. It's Persona and Pokemon mixed together.
More,
And it's
more or
an adult
less.
story. My kid wants to play it, and I'm like, you can't play that game.
Not yet. He's still too young.
Yeah, which is what I like about it. It's got its issues, and it's probably not top 10, but it should be on there. What are some of the Twitter stuff we got going on?
Give me a second. Or if someone wants to add those games to our list then, and I can go through the Twitter stuff.
All right. Hold on a second. The Witcher 3, Digimon World, what else?
I think those were it.
All right.
That was it, yeah.
So to Twitter, and we've got a few write-ins. So WT Famicom, a gaming podcast, another podcast that follows the show, wrote in RPG Maker 2. How do we feel about RPG Maker?
I've never used an RPG Maker. I'm sure it's made lots of really good stuff, but is there a story about it?
Is there like a base story that like teaches you how to make an RPG in RPG Maker 2?
I have no idea.
I kind of wish that we had a little bit more context of why specifically they chose RPG Maker 2. Because for them to specifically say, no, 2, not 1, not 3, just 2, it strikes me that this entry in the series was really of great significance. But without any context, I can't vouch for it. But I appreciate the write-in.
Yeah, absolutely. It's our list, and if none of us have played it, we can't really reasonably argue to have it in the top 10, but thanks for the write-in. And back to Justin, actually, from earlier. So he wrote in Final Fantasy VI, Final Fantasy VII. He also included Chrono Trigger, which I'm glad to see did get representation on the list without having to come from Twitter, as well as Blitzball. Only Blitzball.
No, Blitzball's the worst part of Final Fantasy X. Sorry, Justin.
I don't know.
I mean, that's what the
yeah.
fans are saying, or the fan.
Yeah, Blitzball is 100% the worst part of Final Fantasy X. It's the reason I didn't 100% that game because of
I'm so
Waka.
looking forward to getting to it. So we do have one more last minute write in from Rafe the Grim,
Hey.
and that is the Legend of Heroes Trails series, single best world building of any JRPG ever.
So
Not touched it.
me neither.
I've reviewed one of the Legends of Trials games. They're really good. It's a really great system. I think probably of like if you're looking for modern RPGs that have that old feel to it, it's probably one of the best that's out there. I don't know if it's in top 10, but I will say it's a really enjoyable series. All of the Trails games of the Sky and of Steel are really well done.
All right, so we have the list as it is. Does anyone else have
have
anything
one
they
more.
want to call out? Yeah, that's what I was waiting for.
Go for it.
I've got one more as well, but I don't think it makes it.
I've got 2 or 3 that I want to just throw out there. Most of them probably won't get in, but one of them will.
All right, Alex, let's start with yours.
Yeah, mine I feel like has a decent chance. Well, I'm not sure exactly how much you guys have played of any of the games in these series, but I feel like a Soulsborne needs to be on this list, whether it be I just think that they're pretty important. I think that they defined a genre. Like they created a new genre in current gaming.
Can
And
it be Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order?
it's not even the best. That wasn't even the best. That wasn't even the best Soulsborne that came out in 2019.
I know, but it's the only one I've played and I love it. Right,
Me
Cozy?
too. Me too.
The
I
thing is,
think if that's the case, the original Dark Souls has to be the one.
that's what I was thinking needs to be on the list. It's not my favorite.
Not Demon's Souls, but Dark Souls is the one that kind of popularized it and
Yeah.
made it a little bit more
Mainstream.
Bleh.
What are the RPG mechanics of Dark Souls? Just to help me out here.
It's character it's really stat based. Like you have things like strength and dexterity and magic, and as you get
It's a D&D
souls.
character in this world, basically. That you're
Basically, yeah.
playing.
Yeah.
That's actually a really good way to describe it. Dark Souls is not my favorite one in the series. My favorite is actually Sekiro, but I would say either Dark Souls or Bloodborne. But since we have Dark Souls on the list, I think Dark Souls.
So
I don't think it
Should
makes
be.
the final 10 anyway, but we can have one of them there for now.
yeah, and if it was going to be Dark Souls or Bloodborne and me not playing any of them, I feel like Bloodborne's talked about more than Dark Souls.
There's all these rumors, though, of a Dark Souls remaster and people really, really wanting that to happen and rumoring that
I
that's
think-
going to be
yeah.
the next game from
A lot of people
Blue
probably jumped in at Bloodborne because they were itching to play something on PS4. Then they went back and played the Dark Souls games, and then if they're gonna remaster it and people are clamoring for it, that would probably be the reason.
right.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I think, a question of what's most popular versus what's most important. I think that undeniably Bloodborne at this point is more popular of the two different IP, but I feel like
Yeah.
Dark Souls' importance in terms of setting the standard for what that entire genre is can't be understated.
So what were the last few picks that you guys had? Just to shout them out.
Nathan, what was it? Go for
Okay,
it.
so
Sorry, Cozy. He talked first.
No, Marvel.
Fallout New Vegas.
I have some qualms there.
I feel like because we have, and though I know they're different franchises, and I think Fallout New Vegas is a better game, but because we have Skyrim, I feel like that sort of area of the Bethesda RPGs, and I know it wasn't developed by Bethesda, is been kind of filled.
I know, and my question is, should it be Skyrim or New Vegas? But I'm fine either way. I just want to shout it out. My personal favorite
Fair enough.
RPG from when I was younger, Breath of Fire 2. I think Breath of Fire 2 did a lot of really different things in RPGs that a lot of other games picked up on afterwards. It's actually developed by Capcom, which was new because the first one was developed by Squaresoft, and then Capcom decided they wanted to make their own. And Breath of Fire 2, just an amazing experience, and it tackled religion in a way that no game had ever done. And I remember when Xenogears was out on the PlayStation 1, and how much flack they got for their religious overtones. And I'm like, Breath of Fire did it way worse many years ago. So it's available on everybody should play because it's on Switch Online. So it's really solid. Have any of you guys played any of the Breath of Fires?
I dabbled with the ones that are available through the Switch Online apps, but I didn't get in depth with the game. I still want to. I just haven't gotten around to it.
I'm just gonna. Oh, sorry. Did you have another one you wanted to shout out?
I think that's it. Those are the two that I wanted to get out there.
All right, 4 that I'm going to shout out very quick. Earthbound. This is a hugely
that should be
popular
on
game
there.
on the internet. You might have heard of it. Fire Emblem Awakening. It really kind of revitalized the Fire Emblem franchise and it made it this sort of pseudo juggernaut that Nintendo has today. Monster Hunter. I actually realized that some of you might disagree on it being a role-playing game. But certainly its importance today cannot be denied. And finally, Baldur's Gate, one of the first role-playing games that was made by Canadian developer BioWare. Perhaps you may have heard of them. Baldur's Gate may not be as well remembered today as some of their more recent hits, but it was, at the time of its release, a deeply important, deeply influential role-playing game that directly led to the creation of many other popular role-playing games at the time, such as Planetscape Torment, and so on and so forth.
Okay, I have a something I want to throw in. Okay. If we're defining RPG as you have and or make a character, and as you play, you level them up and increase their stats. Are the Tony Hawk games an RPG?
No. They're a sports game. I love
Jesus.
Tony Hawk, but they're a sports game.
Okay, what about Tony Hawk's Underground, where you're playing the role of a character in this important story?
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to this
if we're
episode of
talking about
Press
Tony Hawk, we're gonna
YYZ.
We'll start talking about SmackDown. Like,
You can catch us on Twitter
at
at Press YYZ. You can catch me on Twitch at Cozy Bear Live.
Cozy. We're not done yet.
God damn it.
We're close. We're close. I just want to have one more argument, and then we can narrow this list down.
Before we forget to Undertale.
That's a good point.
I still haven't.
That's a good point.
I don't know if Tony Hawk has
played
been
it.
settled yet.
I think it was.
Tony Hawk isn't on the list. If Tony Hawk's on the list, then SmackDown's on the list, and SmackDown's not on the list. So.
Can we talk best sports game at a later point, and we'll talk about Tony Hawk and SmackDown all we can.
Does Need for Speed count as a sports
Sure,
game?
we can lump that in. They're often racing and sports are in the same
I love
genre.
Need for Speed Underground.
Yeah.
Okay, I have one more argument I want to have, and it goes back to what you said, Nathan, about bringing Fallout New Vegas. I don't think that's the most important Fallout RPG that's been delivered by Bethesda. And I actually think that this one is more important than Skyrim, and that's Fallout 3. Fallout 3
No,
is the
I
one
think
that's...
Skyrim.
No,
I
Fallout
thought
3 is
you
the
were
one that's
going to...
set-
Fallout 3 is Oblivion with guns.
But it's better.
I thought that you guys were going to actually pull out some of the older Fallout games, like Fallout 2, which still remains in the hearts of purists one of the best games in that series, but which I have not played.
Fallout 2 and Fallout 1 are
I still
amazing. I've played every Fallout game. I think Fallout 2 is amazing. It's hard to go back to.
I still think Fallout 3 is more important than Skyrim, but if you all are all against me, then I know where your loyalties lie. And that's with building a good list and not Mitchell's list, which is fair. This is not Mitchell's list. All right, we have a lot of games here. Jesus Christ.
I think there's a lot though that we can.
Okay,
can
so
cut
Final,
out.
Final Fantasy 6, 7, or 9?
There needs to be one of them.
Yeah, one of those three. 6, 7, or 9. Which one makes the list?
Most important, it's got to be 7 in my opinion.
I mean...
it doesn't have to be the best necessarily, but I think in terms of importance
Yeah.
and significance and influence, 7 is probably the one.
You know,
7's the one that's been remade. So
people will,
Yeah.
argue that 6 is a better one, but people for years weren't saying Remake 6; they were saying Remake 7, and I think that speaks to a wider kind of cultural strata that Final Fantasy VII has achieved, as opposed to what 6 has achieved.
I still can't believe that Final Fantasy VII Remake is releasing on 2 Blu-ray discs, but that's just me. Okay, moving on. Skyrim,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stick of Truth.
Top 10? Not yet.
Not yet.
I just want to say I appreciated your argument earlier of needing to have a good licensed game on the list. I feel like that in theory, could allow it to stay on the list alongside Paper Mario, but I feel like one or the other is going to go in the end.
I would fight tooth and nail for Stick of Truth over Paper Mario, but let's get to that maybe after the fact. So Mass Effect 2.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Mega Man Battle Network 3.
No.
No.
Chrono Trigger makes the
It
list.
has to.
Yeah.
Yep.
Kingdom Hearts 2.
I mean, I'm going to argue for it, yeah.
Yes.
I would argue it's more of an action game than an RPG.
It's got elements of both. For now, I'd say leave it in with the rest of the competition. I can still see it like ending up in a top 10.
Okay, I'll put it in italics for now on this list. Those are the ones we're still TBD.
Great.
If Kingdom Hearts 2 is less of an RPG, Tony Hawk is an RPG.
Persona 4 Golden.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No question.
Pokemon,
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
specifically Red and Blue. Witcher 3.
Yes.
I say yes.
Yeah.
I think so too.
So how
Okay.
many have we got so far? 1, 2, 3, 4,
7.
5, 6, 7. Okay. So we need
So
4 more.
I think Digimon doesn't
No.
make the cut.
No.
I don't think Monster Hunter makes the
No.
cut.
No.
Or, yeah.
I don't think Dark Souls makes the
No.
cut.
I would disagree.
I disagree.
Okay, so let's throw that one into italics for now because we're
Earthbound should be on the list.
fighting. Earthbound.
Yeah. We mentioned it briefly, but it's
Yeah.
too important to not be on the list.
See, that's one for me that could make it or could just miss out. So let's talk a
Yeah,
little
they-
more about it. So
Yeah,
let's
go
just
ahead.
go through
Sorry.
the rest, and then we'll sort of
Yeah.
get into more of the argumentative side of things. So Breath of Fire 2.
I love it, but I knew it wasn't going to make the list. Not enough people have played them. I think it's a really good series, and I want to make sure it gets a proper shout out, and people should go play it on the Switch Online because it's that good. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
You're
okay with dropping
dropping
it for now. It's my that's fine.
Okay. Fire Emblem Awakening.
Yeah, we can drop it.
I love it, but I think we can
Okay.
drop it.
Baldur's Gate.
I mean, I think that this one is secretly really important. I think so. Here's the thing, to pull back the curtains behind the scenes. I did not have this on my list back when this list was supposed to be the top 10 most important JRPGs of all time, and I feel like it just feels like a weird game to put on this list because I feel like it kind of clashes with a lot of the other games that were brought forward. I don't know. Put it in italics.
It's also old enough that, especially the original one, that it would kind of be like seminal in influence for the rest of these games in a lot of ways.
That's sort of the problem I get into, is that it's so deeply rooted in what an RPG has become, but to that same extent, only one person, or how many people here have played Baldur's Gate?
I've played Baldur's Gate,
So-
Baldur's Gate 2. I've played Icewind Dale, Planescape's Torment, all of those games.
It's hard to say it makes our list though, with only one of us having played it. It's the only concern I have. Anyone else feel strongly one way or another?
No.
Cool. So Baldur's Gate doesn't make the list,
No.
especially since Cozy brought it and he said no. So right now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games that have definitely made the list, and we've got 5 that are on the bubble. So we have
So one
three.
needs to get dropped.
No, 2 need to get dropped. We have
Oh,
5
yeah,
games
right.
and 3
My bad.
spots. So South Park, Paper Mario, Kingdom Hearts 2, Dark Souls.
So
Earthbound. Out of those 5 games, I think Kingdom Hearts would be the first one I would drop personally,
I mean,
and I love it.
I think if this was the best JRPGs of all time, I think it would stay. I think that for all RPGs, I think that, yeah, fine. We can drop it.
So we're down to 4, and we got to drop one more.
Everybody loves Earthbound, and everybody was clamoring like, "Oh man, Nintendo, please remake it, or please re-release it on a virtual console or something. Do something with this, please." And then they never did. And then when they did, like, some people liked it, but like not enough people went out and played it.
Nintendo's been weird
makes
with
sense.
the Mother series ever since it came out, though, because like Mother 3 has been fan translated and just not released, and people want that. And they ported, they did Earthbound Origins, which was the first Mother game that came out, and it wasn't the one people wanted. They did do a Wii U version of Earthbound that was available, and it did sell very well when that came out, but Nintendo just doesn't want to do anything with the franchise. But the one thing I'll say about Earthbound is, if you talk about the inspiration of what Earthbound has done to modern like RPGs, like Undertale, which is not on this list, we probably missed that, is heavily inspired by what Earthbound did. And there's many games which will talk about the inspiration that they got from playing Earthbound.
I would say out of the games that we have remaining here, Earthbound deserves to be on this list more than South Park.
Yes.
Yeah.
So is there anything else so if we say Earthbound is in and South Park is on the bubble, is there anything here that we have? So we have South Park, Paper Mario, and Dark Souls. Do we feel like South Park gets in over Dark Souls
I would drop
or Paper Mario?
Dark Souls personally, but that's a me not liking Dark Souls thing.
I don't like Dark Souls either, but I think it should stay, specifically because of how it created a new branch of difficulty in terms of games, and not and it carved out its own niche, and Borderline created a new genre, a Souls-like specifically. And it originated with Demon Souls, but like Dark Souls is like the origin point of the quote unquote very difficult RPG like games.
So is there anyone arguing that Paper Mario doesn't make this list? Is it just down to South Park and Dark Souls?
Well, I would
That's what I'm
rather
hearing.
South Park than Paper Mario, but that's also me.
Me too.
Yeah.
Personally.
Really? Okay.
I mean, I haven't played Paper Mario though, so
I played
can't
Paper
really say.
Mario and I played Stick of Truth. I think, well, I mean, South Park had years to improve upon the Paper Mario formula. Where would South Park in video game form be without Paper Mario?
It wouldn't exist without it, which is why I'm okay with dropping South Park.
And
in
here's
favor
my
of Paper
issue.
Mario. But
Okay.
I would rather see South Park over Dark Souls.
See,
That's just me
Paper Mario is
personally.
not even my favorite RPG. I think Super Mario RPG should be above Paper Mario, but I think we're going to get into semantics at this point.
A Mario RPG should make this list, whether it's Paper Mario, Super Mario RPG, Mario Luigi Superstar Saga, Bowser's Inside Story, whatever it's going to be, one of them should be on the list. No, AJ, it is not Super Paper Mario, because Super Paper Mario is not an RPG.
It's a exceptional experience, but no.
Okay.
Now, with the rumored Switch Paper Mario RPG, that makes me excited.
Okay.
I think for that reason alone, we should leave Paper Mario on the list, because there's more games coming. We don't know if there's more South Park
Yep.
coming.
Sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
So South Park or Dark Souls, we're going to go around. Everyone's going
Dark
to vote.
Souls.
So
We're voting to keep.
we're voting which one makes the list, Dark Souls or South Park. Alex,
Dark Souls.
AJ,
Dark Souls.
Nathan,
South Park.
Cozy.
Dark Souls.
God damn it. I was with you, Nathan. I was on the South Park train, but we got outvoted. All right, so
I don't even like Dark Souls all that much
neither do I. So why did you have to bring it to this goddamn list?
because it's important.
Fine. So the list as it is, the definitive list of most important RPGs of all time as built by your Press YYZ hosts is Final Fantasy VII, The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, Paper Mario, Mass Effect 2, Chrono Trigger, Persona 4 Golden, Pokemon Red and Blue, The Witcher 3, Dark Souls, and Earthbound. In no particular
Hawk.
order.
Tony Hawk.
We did it,
AJ, I
guys.
don't know if you're going to be back next week, bud.
Oh, God. Here we go again.
Oh, we need to engage HR in this again, don't we? Let me pull up the binder.
Okay, so I had an idea about next week's topic of the show, and I didn't run it by you guys before this, so let's see how this works doing it live, and if we're going to do this or not, because this would be great for getting feedback. But the idea I had for next week's show was a round table, where we just have a discussion about our biggest gaming regrets.
I like it.
Cool.
Anyone
I'm into
strongly
that.
opposed to that, or have any better
into that.
ideas?
The only. Oh, go ahead.
Some people cry with one or two of mine, so based on
Oh, that's
this,
perfect.
so yeah.
Then we got to get emotional with this one. This is gonna be great.
Yeah.
Okay, so for our fans out there, if you have any big gaming regrets yourself, feel free to email us at pressyyz@gmail.com. Find us on Twitter at pressyyz or any of the hosts. And speaking of hosts, where are all y'alls on the interwebs? Nathan?
Oh,
Nathan?
Nathan, this is when
sorry,
you plug your
I
social
didn't hear
accounts.
it. My sound's been cutting intermittently in and out. Find me at _NMAC on Twitter. I'm also writing reviews for PS4blog.net. I don't know if I pimped it last week, but I got a chance to go hands-on with Round Guard, which I really enjoyed. So, yeah, check out the review.
AJ?
You can find me all over the internet at @0, capital T, capital H.
Mr. Ballant, where are you?
On Twitter, I am blatantly _Alex, and on Instagram, I am blatantly Alex.
Mr. Cozy?
You can find me on Twitter at AlexCozita, and on Twitch, my Twitch channel is twitch.tv/CozyBearLive.
And you can find me on the internet on all the socials at Mr. Mitch George. We appreciate you taking some valuable time out of your day and spending it with us. Thanks for playing.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.